Car dealership ignores elderly man. Next day, he buys the company and fires the staff. Howard Prescott was a figure you wouldn't easily forget, a man whose quiet demeanor carried an undeniable strength. He didn't need to boast or make grand gestures, his life spoke volumes in its simplicity. But what transpired during a fateful week at a flashy car dealership would not only change his life but also the lives of everyone who worked there forever. That day, Howard left his modest home in the suburbs of Denver in the late afternoon. The winter air bit at his face as he pulled on a worn jacket, a jacket his late wife, Eleanor, had sewn for him many years ago. Despite its age, the jacket carried a warmth that reminded him of her gentle touch. Even after a decade since her passing, Howard decided it was time to replace his car. The vehicle had been his trusted companion for over 10 years, never failing him, but age had finally begun to take its toll. Practical as ever, Howard set out to find a replacement, not out of luxury, but necessity. When he arrived at the dealership, he was greeted by a scene of modern opulence. Sleek, polished cars gleamed under bright showroom lights, and the air buzzed with the sounds of engines revving and conversations between sharply dressed salespeople and well-heeled customers. Howard stepped inside quietly, blending into the background. Howard wandered through the showroom, his eyes tracing the elegant lines of the luxury vehicles on display. He ran his hand along the polished surface of a car he admired, his mind already picturing how it might feel to drive it. But something became apparent as the minutes ticked by. No one approached him. The sales staff, busy fawning over younger, flashier customers, barely spared him a glance. Their dismissive expressions stung. One young salesman, his hair slicked back, made brief eye contact with Howard, only to turn his attention to a couple who had just walked in. Clad in designer clothing, Howard's patience, as always, was unwavering at first. He stood by a car he fancied, hoping someone might come over. But as the whispers and sidelong glances from staff continued, he began to feel the sharp sting of humiliation. After waiting far longer than he cared to, Howard approached the main desk, where 3 salesmen were chatting idly. Clearing his throat, he addressed him politely. "Excuse me, I'm interested in one of your vehicles. Could someone assist me?" One of the men barely looked up. "We're a bit busy at the moment," he replied dismissively. "Why don't you come back later?" Howard said nothing, but inside, something shifted. With a small nod, he turned and walked out. As he reached the door, he caught the faint sound of laughter from behind the desk, followed by one of the men muttering about wasting time on window shoppers. What they didn't know was that Howard Prescott was not a man to be underestimated. The humiliation he felt would not be forgotten. As he drove home in his old car, he made a silent decision. This wasn't over. That night, Howard sat in his modest living room, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating the photo of his late wife, Eleanor. Her smile seemed to encourage him as he reflected on the events of the day. Howard had built his wealth over decades through smart investments and strategic decisions. He hadn't flaunted his success, but he had always understood the power it gave him. Picking up the phone, he made a few calls to old friends in the business world. It didn't take long. By the end of the night, Howard had secured the means to purchase the entire dealership outright. The next morning, Howard returned to the dealership. This time, he wasn't just an old man looking for a car, he was the new owner. As he stepped into the showroom, the sales staff barely noticed him at first. But when the general manager, Jerry, approached him with a strained smile, the dynamic began to shift. "Good morning, sir. How can we assist you today?" Jerry asked, clearly unaware of what was about to unfold. Howard handed him a folder of documents. As Jerry flipped through the pages, his expression turned pale. "I'm not here to buy a car," Howard said calmly. "I'm here as your new boss." Howard gathered the staff in the main office. Standing before them, he spoke in a tone that was steady but firm. "Yesterday, I came here hoping to buy a car. Instead, I was ignored, dismissed, and judged based solely on how I looked. Today, I'm here to make some changes." He didn't mince words. One by one, he addressed the employees who had shown disrespect the day before. Jerry, the general manager, was the first to go. "Jerry, you're fired," Howard said simply, "and anyone else who treated customers with the same lack of respect will follow." Some staff members were spared, those who had shown kindness to others. Regardless of their appearance, were rewarded with promotions. Howard had no interest in revenge, he wanted transformation. Under Howard's leadership, the dealership underwent a complete overhaul. New hires were brought in, chosen for their customer service skills and their ability to treat everyone with dignity. Howard implemented strict policies to ensure no one would ever be judged by their appearance again. Within weeks, the dealership's reputation soared. Customers flocked to it, drawn by stories of its remarkable new owner and the exceptional service they received. Howard Prescott's story wasn't just about a man seeking justice, it was about the power of humility, patience, and determination. He didn't lash out in anger or demand respect. Instead, he earned it by turning a moment of humiliation into a lasting legacy of kindness and fairness. As Howard stood in the newly transformed showroom, now bustling with customers and respectful staff, he felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. He didn't need to flaunt his wealth or power, he had used them to make a difference. Howard's story reminds us of a timeless truth: appearances can be deceiving, and respect should never be reserved for the few who look the part. In a world that often judges by surface-level traits, Howard Prescott's actions serve as a powerful reminder to treat everyone with dignity, because you never know who might be walking through your door.